As tempting as it might be, getting a second cat is not always a good idea. It might make your life a nightmare, or it could be the best decision you ever make in your life. However, there is a lot to think about when adding a new cat to your house. So let's talk about that. One thing to note is the age of the current cat that you already own. If that cat is a young adult or a kitten, the chances are that it will adjust much better than if you own an adult and you're trying to bring a new cat in. A lot of times, adult cats just have a much more difficult time adjusting to a new cat in the house if they've already been there for a while. So age is really a super important factor when you're considering getting a new cat. You have to consider both the age of the current cat that you already own and also the age of the other cat that you're trying to bring in the house. Sort of related to that is gender. If you're trying to bring in an unneutered male cat with another unneutered male cat, the chances are it might not turn out so well. Whereas if both cats are neutered, it could go extremely well and they might end up being friends in the long run. You really have to consider gender and whether or not the cats are spayed and neutered as a big factor in whether or not they're going to get along with each other. So gender is a huge factor whenever you're trying to put two cats together. Has your current cat ever been around another cat in the past? Because if it has, then it might actually do pretty well with the new cat currently. However, you have to remember, when was the last time it was around another cat? Was it around another cat when it was a kitten? If it's an adult now, it might not do so well. Whereas if it's been around another cat maybe just 3 or 4 months ago, it might adjust pretty well to having a new cat in the house. So this is a good way to get a good indication of whether your current cat will get along with a new cat in the house. What are you prepared to do if this second cat doesn't get along with your other cat? Are you going to try to make it work out long term? Because sometimes it takes a very, very long time for two cats to actually get along with each other. And there might be a lot of adjustments that you have to try to make in your house to actually have it work out. Or it might be one of those cases where it may actually never work out. What are you going to do with the cat then? Are you going to try to rehome it? Or are you going to try to make it work out? Are you going to separate them in different rooms for long term? You really have to consider these factors because getting a second cat is not something that you have to decide lightly. You have to make a lot of big decisions when you're trying to look at getting a second cat. Are you trying to get a second cat as a friend for your other cat? I've seen a lot of people make this mistake. You really shouldn't get a second cat as a friend for your other cat because sometimes it doesn't work out that way. Sometimes they won't get along. You really should be getting a second cat because you want to. You might be going into this thinking, oh, this is going to be a great way to entertain our other cat while we're gone at work. He loves to play so much, so we should just get him another friend so he can keep himself entertained. A lot of times it doesn't work, so you really have to consider, why are you trying to get the second cat? Is it for you or is it for your other cat? One last thing to consider is, do you have the finances for a second cat? You have to realize that you're going to be paying double the amount of food, you're going to have to provide double the amount of litter every month, and you're going to have to be paying for double the amount of vet bills. And for some people, that's a huge financial burden. Are you going to be able to budget the amount of money that you need to have a second cat? You have to realize that if you're going to get a second cat, if you end up getting one and it ends up being much more expensive than you thought, well, what are you going to do about it then? Are you going to try to get rid of this cat later? You have to really consider first, before you get a second cat, how much it's going to cost you. Realize that when you get a second cat, you're probably going to have some behavioral issues along the way. Two things that you should really expect to happen at some point are fighting and litter box issues. If you don't have the house space to provide for both of these cats, then you're probably going to run into these issues a lot more. And the two things, like I said before, litter box issues and fighting commonly happen when a new cat comes in the home. So with litter box issues, you have to realize that if there are not enough litter boxes provided to each of the cats, they may end up having issues where they're peeing in random spots in the house and they're not using their litter box appropriately. So you really have to be on top of this and provide enough litter box issues, or this is going to be a major concern for you and you're going to be running into all kinds of headaches and you're not going to know what to do and you're going to be frustrated. So really be prepared for issues with their litter boxes. Fighting usually does occur a little bit in the beginning when two cats are introduced to each other. There can be some swatting, some growling, some hissing. If they are not used to each other, these are things that you might want to expect and giving them a little bit of time to adjust to each other, they might actually settle in and this will no longer be an issue. Sometimes you have to give it several days, maybe even several weeks before this kind of subsides and they get adjusted and used to each other. But you have to really expect for this to happen because sometimes cats just feel like they're threatened or they just don't feel comfortable around a new cat. So a lot of times fighting does occur. What do you know about this new cat that you're bringing into your house? Do you have a lot of information on it? Do you have a bunch of history on it? Do you know what it likes? Do you know what it dislikes? The more information that you have, the better prepared you're going to be and the less issues that you're going to run into. So really try to get as much information about this cat as you can. If you have considered everything possible and everything checks out, you're probably in the position to get that second cat. Now, you don't have to necessarily be afraid of getting a second cat. You just have to do your homework. And I know I'm preaching just a little bit, but if you do your homework, you're really going to have it pay off. And getting a second cat is a great decision for a lot of people. So if you have considered all of these things that I listed off in this video, you're probably going to be able to be in a good position and it's going to turn out great for you and you're going to really enjoy getting this second cat. If you're second guessing any of these things that I listed in this video, you might have to reconsider whether or not it's the right time for you to get a second cat. And you might also be able to reconsider what you would have to do in order to make it a good fit for you to get a second cat. If you do get a second cat, just realize that it might take some time for them to get used to each other. You might have to make some adjustments with your house along the way, and your current cat's personality might actually change a little bit. Have a plan for how to make it work out, and remember that a cat is a lifelong commitment. I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you're looking for more advice on both cats and dogs, please be sure to check out my channel for related content. If you did like this video, be sure to drop a like, and I will see you guys in the next one.